All right. So welcome everyone to our Lunch and Learn. My name is Jillian Graber, Executive Director of Protect PT, and I'm here today with Anaïs Peterson, and we're going to talk about from Ohio Valley to the Gulf, strategies for digital organizing. And you may have seen Anaïs's TikTok, and we're going to talk about that today and give some strategies. But I just want to start off with a short bio. So Anaïs Peterson, name day is based on occupied lands of Osage and Shawnee peoples in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Anaïs graduated from the University of Pittsburgh in 2020 and is now the petrochemical organizer for Earthworks, where Anaïs supports petrochemical and fossil fuel sites across the Gulf and Ohio River Valley. And I want to thank you for joining us today, Anaïs, and taking the time to talk about these digital organizing strategies.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Happy Tuesday, everybody.
For sure, for sure. And we're happy to have our lunch with you. So thanks so much. If you would like to ask Anaïs a question, go ahead and put it in the chat and we'll be able to see your questions. And I'm going to just go ahead and pull that window up because I don't think I have it. And all right, so I'm going to put this up on the screen. So this will probably be easier to see when we have some text behind it, because the text is white right now. All right, so we're going to start off with talking about what is digital organizing and some of the successes that you've had. So tell us a little bit about, so maybe people that are not familiar with the term digital organizing, tell us really what that means to you.
Yeah, for me, digital organizing is really just using digital platforms, primarily case Twitter, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and the most recently TikTok as a way to spread the word about things I'm working on. And I think a lot of people think about digital organizing and I think of like Twitter activists and like people who just sit online and like type angry things and, you know, like put long rants out in the world and don't really do anything. But for me, I think of digital organizing as a really important way of talking to audiences that don't normally see your message. I think a lot of times, you know, like we have our meetings and like we know the 5 people who are coming and they're really great, but we're not really able to get our message out beyond those 5 people. So for me, using digital platforms where things are so easy to be shared and spread, it's a really great way to, you know, introduce more people to what you're talking about. I don't know if you're muted, but I cannot hear you.
Thank you. Yeah, we have a lot of traffic by our office, so I tend to mute myself and then forget. Thanks so much. So I'm not on TikTok a lot, but I know my kids are, and I know that they're and I've seen your TikTok, and I follow the Popco TikTok, which you do solely, right? This is like the channel that you help develop and everything.
Yeah. So yeah, TikTok, I feel like people hear about it and they're like, that's really scary. Like that is young people doing like so many of my coworkers have been like, TikTok is too scary for me. And I'm like, it's okay. You can do it. Like it's not as bad as it seems. And it was actually someone I work with, Sharon Wilson, who lives in Texas, who is, I don't want to say much older than me, but not the generation you think would be on TikTok, who made a TikTok and was like super successful. That had me thinking like, oh, maybe I could make climate related TikToks and they would get somewhere. They're nowhere to the level of notoriety of Sharon's, who's get like thousands of likes, but I am slowly working on getting the Popco TikTok established. And the way that I've started doing organizing or digital organizing the Popco TikTok is a combination of like me sitting and talking, doing 1 to 2 minute videos. So I've done those around like things like the PTTG plant in Ohio, where there was like a big update and it wouldn't make sense to put it in like a trend kind of format. But then I'm also really trying to use current TikTok trends. For y'all who have like just kind of loosely heard about TikTok, it is an app in which a lot of people do like dance trends to short song clips. So I'm trying to like use those trends to like use those and kind of slide in messages about like fracking waste, and have those get out there. So the one I was working on this morning, I am working on one about like the Hot Barge Thursdays, the petition that y'all are putting out, around barging fracking waste. I right now have like a 2-minute me sitting and talking kind of thing. But I'm trying to find a song to make it like a good trend video, so that it might get more traction on the app. Because TikTok is really a platform that is so hit or miss, which I think is what is often so frustrating about digital organizing, is you can like put so much into one video or like one tweet and you're like, this is it. It's got everything in there. It's concise. And then it just like totally flops. And then you put one out that's like not really great, but you're just like, got to get something out that people love it. So it's like more content rather than quality content for me.
Yeah, and I really enjoy your TikToks because they come up on my feed, and I love the ones with the music. I think those are really fun. It's kind of a way to take this topic that we organize on all the time, which is really can be really stressful, to be quite honest. It can be, stressful, and it can be, hard to deal with this type of, we see the worst, right? We see the worst of what's in communities, and what is, what's being done with folks and their health. And so I do enjoy how when you you take a subject that's really kind of deep and make it into a trendy TikTok. I think it's a way to not only get the following that you're seeking and get the outreach out there, but also for to take something that is really just a downer and make it a little bit more light, I think is really great. So for people that don't know, because I didn't know this at first, for people that don't know what Popco is, why don't you tell them a little bit about what Popco is?
Yeah, sorry, I just like glazed over that. So Popco is an acronym of the People Over Petro Coalition. It's a coalition of individuals and organizations from across the Ohio River Valley, so West Virginia, Ohio, PA, and some folks in Kentucky, who came together to resist the petrochemical build out in the region. So that being like the Shell cracker plant, Monaca, the PTTG plant in Ohio, things like the Mountaineer Storage Hub in West Virginia. If you're interested in Popco, follow our TikTok, clearly is the number one step. But we also have Twitter, Facebook, and a website with more information. And one of the big campaigns that you might know about right now underneath Popco is the campaign around the Falcon Pipeline, which is the pipeline that would be supplying ethane to the cracker plant in Monaca. And that's actually like the first big successful TikTok I put out was about the Falcon Pipeline in the beginning of the campaign. And I think Mary has the link for it. But that campaign is still ongoing, and there's also more information about that on the Popco website.
That's great. And so I think the cool thing is like you can put content in the words with your TikTok. So there's content there, things that you can like actions you can take, but then also a video. So it's like video media content. And I think it's interesting that you're using this type of platform because, quite honestly, the industry that we try to protect residents against, the fossil fuel industry, they have so many advertising dollars, so much financial support that this is a great way for people that with limited means, limited resources, to be able to get their word out about what they're doing. So do you find that that's successful, and that it's a way that you've been able to elevate the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a really good point with like fossil fuel companies have so much, so much money to just like pour into their message. And I think that's what's fun about digital organizing is that also a lot of it is allows you to be like on the offensive. And like so often on Twitter, like Shell and BP will put out just the silliest tweets. I'm thinking back to one where they were like, "What are you doing to reduce your carbon footprint?" And they had like 4 options, and everyone was supposed to vote. And in the comments, in the replies, everyone was like, "Maybe you should think about this. Like, it's not really on us to drive less. Like, maybe you should not build a cracker plant."
Yeah.
So a lot of digital organizing is like getting to green troll these corporations and just like put out like memes or like just reply like ridiculous things to them and combat their propaganda machine. And that's actually one of the TikToks in the Popco TikTok that I'm really fond of that I feel like should have gotten more attention and it didn't, was one going through like all the just ridiculous social media trends that fossil fuel companies do. Like they're like, oh, we're like building or we're like investing in forests. And they're like whole like, we support women in our industry and like all their different like weird propaganda things and just being like, this is all just to remind you that they're or trying to distract you from the fact they're terrible.
Right, right. Yeah, and so like it's a way for us to get the correct information out there because a lot of times, like you said, the propaganda machine, that's the oil and gas industry. They're putting out this like really this spin on what they're doing is benefiting people, and really that's not the case a lot of times. What are some like so if like let's say someone didn't ever do any kind of digital organizing before, right? What is the first thing or first advice that you would give them to kind of start doing that?
Yeah. First thing I would say is just kind of a warning and word of advice is that it is going to take a lot of time of you like sitting on your phone. Um, I think I think if you're like a younger person who's on Twitter or like TikTok a lot, you'll see organizations come on and they're trying to like be trendy and they'll like participate in a meme and they just a way that's not quite right and like a little weird and it's like these people don't really know what they're talking about and just backfires on them. So I think the thing that makes digital organizing often so successful is that you're people who are on the app or on the platform a lot and you know how people communicate, what the trends are actually, how they're actually supposed to be executed. So it is definitely going to take more time. Like you can't just make a TikTok account and be like, I'm going to do this trend because often there's like all these little nuances that you have to like spend 3 hours scrolling through videos. And then you're like, oh, I understand why, you know, this song goes with this dance or whatever. Which is not to say that you shouldn't try it because I think it is really fun. But just like as a warning, it is hard to just like jump into it if you've never been on Twitter before and then like try and put out a viral tweet. You might get lucky, but in most cases you're going to get like one like. And something that I learned actually through digital organizing training that's been really helpful for me is if you follow like the app's account on their app, like if you follow Instagram's Instagram account or Twitter's Twitter account, you can learn a lot about like where the app is going and what content they're going to be promoting. So for example, like Instagram right now, or recently has been like really moving towards promoting video content. So if you follow Instagram's Instagram, you'll see them posting a lot more content that they're going to be boosting on other accounts. So it's a good way just to like get on top of all the different trends that may be coming.
Yeah, that's really great advice. I had no idea that Instagram had an Instagram. I think, yeah, and I think that that's a we're always trying to keep up with what's going on and how to post the most relevant content. But sometimes the platforms actually change what they're promoting and they change what their algorithms are going to push forward, and we have like really no control over that, right? So I think that's a super good tip. And I think also it's really kind of neat that you were talking about earlier some of the TikToks that you did that like you put a ton of effort in and they didn't do so well, but then there was other ones that you just like did really quickly. I was listening to a podcast about TikToks, and they were saying that a lot of times the stuff that kind of is off the cuff, and the stuff that's like not as well planned and put together are the ones that are most successful, which I think is kind of cool. It's like authentic, it brings authenticity to the work that you do. So I think that's really neat. So tell me a little bit about why, why it's important to connect our region with what's been going on in the Gulf.
Yeah. So for folks who are not familiar with like petrochemical presence in the U.S., we'll say right now the like hub of petrochemicals, plastic production in the U.S. is all around the Gulf Coast. There's a stretch from Baton Rouge to New Orleans in Louisiana. It's like an 80-mile stretch known as Cancer Alley, where they have an excessive amount of petrochemical development, and these are all in predominantly and historically Black communities. They have some of the highest cancer rates and risk for cancer, and actually as well COVID numbers, because all this pollution lessen their ability to not like resist COVID, but lessen their immune systems and their health. And then there's also a lot of petrochemical plants in Texas as well, along the Gulf Coast in Houston. There's Point Comfort, but now they are also trying to bring that development here, obviously because of all the hurricanes impacting these plants in the Gulf. So for me, it's really important that when we think about resisting the petrochemical build out, we use a lot of talking points about Cancer Alley. Like we don't want no Cancer Alley in the Ohio River Valley. It was like a really popular chant. And we talk about like the health impacts in Louisiana, and we talk about the nurdle releases in Point Comfort. And so we're kind of using like their stories and their traumas and their sacrifices without necessarily like also showing up and being able to support them, even though we obviously live miles and miles away from Louisiana. I think it's important that we're doing more than just like using their stories and talking points to like move our movement forward and protect our homes here. I just quickly mentioned with hurricanes, but the Gulf really is on the front lines of climate crisis and like still industry and development. Hurricane Ida most recently, and then as well as Hurricane Nicholas in Texas. These are the communities that are absolutely just inundated with petrochemical development, and they're still trying to resist new plants coming in as they're like trying to rebuild their homes. Yeah. People without roofs, and they're like going to council meetings trying to make sure that resolutions aren't passed. So there is, and so in that, I think people were like, oh, the hurricane happened. There was a big flood of attention, but there's definitely still a need for mutual aid and support. So a list of links and GoFundMe's, if folks are able to support. If there's anyone here watching from the general Louisiana area, you can also check out, I think Healthy Gulf is doing work, and they're out like every weekend tarping people's homes.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can't really talk about the petrochemical build out and the impact on the environment without talking about climate change and how these folks are being even more impacted because of climate change and because of the intensity of the storms that they're seeing. So it's incredibly hard work, just as it is to resist this, to protect your community. And then on top of it, you have to deal with, the change in weather, like virtually overnight, and the loss of essential resources. So we're going to put up some links for everybody in the chat, so you can go ahead and look at those links. And I think it's incredibly important to donate to these disaster reliefs, and try to support folks that are dealing with this right now. It's like a double whammy, right? You get your health is threatened every day by some type of petrochemical build out, and then you're also in the midst of the climate crisis, which is something like I was listening to the radio, and they were talking about all these different plans that the current administration has to help with reduce our impact on climate change. But I just, there's a lot that is going on right now, and I just wonder how much help those folks are getting right now that are currently dealing with the impacts. And is that going to impact us in the future even more so if we have this type of infrastructure in our community? So I think it's a lot to take in and think about. And so I'm going to shift gears to this photo, which I think is really kind of fun and interesting, that I thought we could talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, this photo is from a couple weeks ago. I'm on the left in a headstand that lasted a very few seconds. It did not last much longer than this photo. And then on the right is one of my good friends. And we were down in, this was in Moundsville, West Virginia, right on the Ohio River. And actually, like behind us, slightly to the left, is the location of the proposed PTTG plant. But this is a banner that we made the day before. It is about 4 bed sheets across and 2 bed sheets down. So like maybe 30 feet across. I don't know how long a bed sheet is. But it says fracking and then arrow cracking, arrow plastic. We deserve better, protect the Ohio. Oh no, sorry. We protect the Ohio Valley. We deserve better. Different order. There's a picture that has it like more clearly readable. But yeah, the picture is from an action we did down in like the Wheeling Moundsville area of West Virginia for the Break Free from Plastics Actions Against Extraction, which is actually happening today in 39 minutes. And so Break Free from Plastics Action Against Extraction is basically this hour of highlighting all these different actions that took place across the U.S., either prior to the 26th or live today, and everyone calling on Biden to stop permitting new or expanded petrochemical facilities. So this action was part of that. It was a group of us who drove down from Pittsburgh, and then some folks from West Virginia and Ohio, because we were literally right on the border. Yeah, picture. Came together, did banner drop. We did some flyering. I made a little zine about plastics, which I'm really fond of. And yeah, got to hang out with a big banner, have a big banner moment, which was really fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you made this banner. That's out of bed sheets?
Yeah, bed sheets and a lot of paint.
And so if other folks want to do something similar where they make some banner, like how can you use this content that you have at this action or that you've developed from the action? What are some ways that you could put it on digital formats to be able to share it with the world?
Yeah, so with the banner drop, we did it. This is off the Wheeling Suspension Bridge in Wheeling, West Virginia. And I haven't had the time yet, but what I'm hoping to do with it is do a lot of like content around videos of it actually dropping. Because we had, I think, 5 folks up there holding it, and like the way it unfurled coming down, we did hit like a slight snag in the left corner of this picture. It's fixed, but it got like caught on one of the like lights. So it is not the like super cool slow-mo unfurling video I may have been hoping for. But I think this is just, the image is something that folks aren't really used to seeing, like a big banner drop. And so I'm hoping to use it as like across a number of videos and different voiceovers, and also just like explaining and launching the petition to Biden. There is a petition right now to Biden calling on him to stop permitting these facilities on Action Network. If y'all haven't signed, make sure to do that.
Right. And I'm betting Mary could give us a link for that in the chat. She's been pulling up links. Thank you so much, Mary, for your support on the back end. Just putting all those links in the chat for folks. So even if you watch this later, you'll know, and you'll be able to participate in the links and with the actions that we talk about today. So why don't we go ahead to the next slide, and we'll talk about this different action. Is this the same at the same time, or is this different?
Yeah, it was. We were there from like 10 a.m. to 4 roughly. So a lot of different visuals all in one day. The banner for it's a little rumpled, but it reads fracking and pipelines and plastic no more, follow the fossil free road, accompanied by loosely Wizard of Oz characters, including two dogs and lion's manes, which are incredible. But this visual and banner were like the brainchild of my mother right before the climate strike. What was the climate strike? Early October. She was like, we should do this Wizard of Oz theme. Like, will you wear a Dorothy costume? So that is your spirit Halloween Dorothy costume. But yeah, I mean, it's people definitely got it. I'm very glad it all came together. And so we used this in Wheeling. We stood at like one of the really busy intersections and handed out flyers as folks were like stopped at the light, gave out some Halloween candy. Got a lot of really supportive honks. So it was definitely a lot of people saw us.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's a great way to get seen. And we actually have a similar action. We're asking people to, for the Heart Barge Thursdays, we're asking folks to take videos of themselves talking about why they don't want barging of fracking waste along the Ohio River. And so what they're trying to do, just briefly, is take fracking waste from Pennsylvania along the Monongahela, the Allegheny, and then into the Ohio River, and then ship the waste from Pennsylvania into Ohio. And there's all kinds of problems with that that I think we've gone over in other videos if folks want to watch those. But we're asking people because we think it's pretty scary that they're putting, like millions upon millions of gallons of toxic fracking wastewater onto barges and then barging it down the river that could potentially leak at any point along the way. We could have a leak, and then, these are public drinking water systems. And when you're talking about Moundsville, Ohio, I was just remembering some of our partner organizations in Ohio that we've been working with on the barging campaign, and Moundsville was one of the areas where along that river you can see those barges. It seems like everything's all in one area. It's this whole region, and like you were saying, we're connected with what's going on in the Gulf, and I don't know. I feel like I'm sure the folks in Ohio and the folks in Beaver, I know that in our community with new fracking well pads, we feel like it's an invasion of our community, and I'm sure that other folks feel that same way. Do you think that you get that kind of feeling when you're in these places or from talking to folks?
Yeah, I mean, this was my first time really spending time in like Moundsville, Wheeling area, and it is really gorgeous. I mean, the Ohio River is a beautiful, like beautiful river. The area is, I especially like you hit that like peak fall colors, like PA people, y'all know it's a gorgeous spot, and then like all of a sudden you're like, oh, haha, they're gonna like put fracking waste down this river. It's just so at odds with like everything. Yeah, I mean, I think folks are really like seeing through the whole like we need this, we need jobs. And the thing with petrochemical development is that and fracking companies are very intentional about the communities they target. And I mean, they're not lying about it. Like they pick low income, Black and brown, rural communities because they know that either the government doesn't care about them or they don't have the power to keep these things out, which makes it so much more successful or like impressive when we successfully do it. Like in Louisiana, the same group that's now fighting the Formosa Plastics plant just like a couple years ago successfully kept another chemical plant out of their community. So like it is definitely hard work and it takes a lot of grassroots organizing, but it is possible because these things are not at all representative of, I think, the majority of people's desires for their community.
Yeah, it seems like they're taking all the risk and they're not getting any benefit. In fact, they're just getting detriment from it. So I think that would be a really important reason why nobody would want this in their community. Here's another picture of on the bridge, which I think is really cool. And so walking on the bridge. What are some other, I think there's another picture of the banner next. I'm not sure, Mary, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. So this looks like, did you have it on a second bridge, or is this the same place?
Yeah, it's same bridge. We just moved a little bit over because it was super windy and the wind was going the wrong way. Instead of like pushing it out so you could read it, it was like flattening against the bridge. So this is just against a wall, so you could actually read it.
That's awesome. And then what about the next picture? We've got one more picture, and then there we go. Tell me a little bit about this. Is a really big banner.
Yeah, so that's the banner from CORE, which is Concerned Ohio River Residents, who I think y'all are working on with the waste barging stuff. Yeah. So CORE is resisting the PTTG cracker plant, which is a similar ethane cracker plant that's been proposed right on the Ohio River, like I was saying with that picture of me and Mara doing the headstand on the banner, right on the river, right on the Ohio-West Virginia border. And PTTG is, unlike the Shell plant, like on really, really shaky ground. The final investment decision for the plant has been delayed indefinitely. Their air permit has, like, I believe, just expired. And actually one of the companies who is like partnering to build a plant has withdrawn since it's like such a bad financial decision. So it's looking really bad, but it is not quite dead yet. So folks in Ohio, West Virginia are still organizing around that. And then the banner on the left is, you can't quite see it, but is a picture or a painting of a falcon, the bird, breaking a pipeline in half, which was made by Shannon at Frac Tracker around the Falcon Pipeline campaign.
Nice. We have a similar, I don't know if you can see it behind me, Beaverzilla. Yeah, that's a really great image to see, you know, the pipelines being destroyed, because I feel like they have destroyed so much just building these pipelines. It's crazy. I feel like sometimes people are in their own little bubble and, you know, their own little world. But it seems like no matter where you go, there are people online. There are people on these digital platforms. So do you find that this is a way to like get to those folks that, you know, kind of live in their bubble, but are on TikTok, are on Facebook, are on Twitter? Do you think that this is a really effective way to get to those folks?
Yeah, something that I was really happy about with the Falcon Pipeline TikTok I put out was it actually was showing up on the For You pages of people like living in Monaca. People were commenting like, "Oh, I know that cracker plant. Like I can see it from my house." So it like really hit like the audience I was going for. For folks who have not like been on the TikTok platform, the way it's set up is there's like a page of people who you follow, so you just see their content, and then like a For You page, which is basically like a random collection of different videos. And TikTok kind of, after you use the app for a couple of weeks, they'll profile you into like, oh, you like content about like frogs and soup, and they'll like show you most of those videos. So it's a little curated, but it's still pretty random. So I was showing up on the For You page of like people living in Monaca, people right like in all these towns affected by the pipeline. I was like, this is exactly what I was going for. So I think on one hand, like digital spaces are a really, really great way to do outreach to like younger folks, but there is like definitely that level of like age and class that ties into that with people who don't have access to like reliable internet or like who are older. Definitely still like doing phone banking and postcards and all those things are such an important thing, and like something I've been trying to figure out and like research radio stations in Texas and see how we can do like radio ads for folks who, you know, aren't home all the time. We keep missing with phone calls or postcards, or like having them in different languages just so there's an even greater level of access.
Yeah, I think different languages is a really great idea. And I love the idea of it sounds like you're layering different outreach techniques based on the type of folks that you want to get in contact with, and what their abilities to access the internet, or their ability to, it might not be about access, but it might just be about the navigating to your particular site. I mean, I know I'm probably, an older generation, so I still like Facebook a lot, but I also like TikTok a lot, and I don't know. I'm actually trying to get away from Facebook because I feel like it's not. It's kind of just. I don't know. It's been boring lately. So, but I know, like, we just started our Hot Barge Thursday Facebook page, because it is still, especially for older folks that are on Facebook and they like to Facebook all the time. See their grandchildren, see their grown children that don't live with them anymore. It's a great way to connect with those folks. And I feel like TikTok is a much younger platform, but there's like people from all ages on there. Like, I don't know if I could see myself doing a TikTok video, but then I see other folks my age doing a TikTok video. I'm like, maybe I could. Maybe I could do a TikTok video. It might not be as cool as yours. Yours are very cool. I really enjoy the TikToks. You're in my following feed.
Thanks.
So what are can listeners stand on solidarity with these frontline communities that are subjected to danger from petrochemical buildout, and how can they do that?
Yeah. So the first thing, if y'all have like extra long lunch hours or are free in a little bit, definitely join the Break Free from Plastics Actions Against Extraction. It is live streamed on YouTube. So again, if you can't catch it, then in the next 30 minutes, you can come back and rewatch it. But that will be showcasing different petrochemical fights from across the U.S. And I think when we think about like frontline communities with petrochem too, especially in this region, remembering that like petrochemical development does not start with the cracker plant. And we wouldn't be building a cracker plant if they weren't fracking, and if they weren't in different compressors, and if they weren't shipping it overseas. And so there's a lot of opportunities to engage somewhere in this life cycle that ends in plastic. In supporting folks in Louisiana, obviously there's the mutual aid efforts, but all campaign around the finance campaign, primarily around Formosa Plastics, has started something over this past month called No Formosa Plastic Fridays, where every Friday they're doing a different call to action to target like a financier or some other entity that has some power over the project. So there's a toolkit. I think it is still being finished up for the action for this Friday, because this Friday is an international target, but that should be on by Friday, as well as the action for next week. There is also 2 petitions from the past 2 weeks. I believe one is to Bank of America and one is to President Biden. So definitely still sign those. They are still open. Yeah, I think the last thing with like standing in solidarity with frontline petrochemical communities, I think for a long time people are like, oh, well, that means like sharing information about them and getting the word out about what they're doing and like what projects they're resisting, which is definitely a huge part of things. But if you live in the Pittsburgh area, it's equally important to like show up in Beaver and be there when they're doing events. For example, like there was an Earth Day rally this past April. Couldn't remember what month Earth Day was in. And driving out there, being there for their rally. It's when you drive to the Beaver Courthouse where the rally was, you literally drive right past the cracker plant, and it's such just a sad and enraging reminder of how important it is to be out there and like not just tweeting about these things, but when you have the opportunity, showing up and being on the ground with your mask on.
Yeah, definitely. And we put the links to some of those actions you were talking about in the chat. And And, with that, you were showing up for us last week. So I want to thank you for that. We had a rally outside the DEP, and it was great having you to that rally. I do think it's important to show up for folks, and or, we would be staying there alone. And I think that, we're actually trying to do we're doing some noise monitoring around the cracker plant to see like what the kind of noise the plan is going to give off, because that's a quality of life impact that sometimes is overlooked. So we're working with local folks on the ground to do that. I did put the link in the chat to our actions page as well. On our actions page for Protect PT, if folks want to go to that, there are actually 2 actions you can participate in right now. One is for the denial of the Draculic well pad, which we had the action for last Thursday. And then the second is the petition for the U.S. Coast Guard and to stop the barging of fracking waste along the 3 rivers. So there's 2 actions that if you go to our action page, you can participate in, along with the other links, the No for Formosa Plastics Friday. And then I'm also going to put this link in here as well, because this is our Hot Barge Thursday Facebook. And I want to remind people to send us their videos of, we had, the whole campaign, hot barging is scary. When we say hot barge, we mean, radioactive is hot. So radioactive fracking waste is what they're putting on these barges. So we want to make sure that folks understand that, and to bring the subject to light. One digital organizing strategy that we thought about was to have people submit videos. So we're asking folks to submit videos. You can dress up, in a costume. I'm going to try to dress up as like a zombie or something, or I have a witch costume I might use, and submit videos. You can actually just email Mary@protectpt.org to submit those videos. Or call us and we'll connect you with, with the right person. So you can email those videos to us if you'd like, and we'd like to start posting them around Halloween. So this weekend, we do have, we have a comment from a participant talking not only noise. So the only noise not to monitor is the one outside the White House. So Lois is saying that we should not monitor the noise outside the White House. How long should those videos be? Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Just I would say a minute or so. They can be really short videos. Anaïs, do you have any suggestions on if people want to post videos on something like Facebook or another digital platform? Are there like length constraints to doing that?
Yeah. So it is annoying because they all have, like, each platform has a different max like length, and they're all different. So for Instagram, this one's like slightly convoluted. So if you want it to be on an Instagram feed and play the whole video, it has to be less than a minute. But you can upload a longer video to Instagram. It will go into IGTV. So it will play the first minute on your feed, and then like someone has to click on it, and then they can watch the whole video. And I think those can be like up to an hour.
Wow.
Don't do an hour-long video for this, but if your like video ends up being like a minute, 10 seconds, you can still put it on Instagram. Right. For Twitter, they have to be less than 2 minutes and 20 seconds. For Facebook, probably like whatever length. It's just going to take like hours to upload. And then for TikTok originally only had up to 60 seconds. But I think they have pretty much rolled out to every user that they can now do up to 3 minutes. The thing with TikTok is, since it started with a 60-second max, people got really used to like 5 to 35-second videos. And once it hits like that minute and a half mark, people get really bored and want to scroll. So like people's attention spans have just like shrunk. So unless you have a super, super engaging video for all 3 minutes, you're most likely not going to have people watching the whole time. And something I actually totally forgot to mention under the, like, if you want to start digital organizing question, it was something that's been, and I'm important to me, and I'm trying to continue like learning and working on, is making like my digital content really accessible to folks. So if you're putting a video out there on TikTok, make sure to like add the captions. They do now provide to most users automatic closed captioning, but depending on how fast you talk, you might need to go in and like make sure they get the words right. I did my one about fracking. It totally changed fracking every time. So I had to like go back in and change fracking to be the right word. And so I'm not sure. I think Instagram might also now do auto captions, but just thinking about if you can get those captions on your videos. And if you can't, something that I've been doing is you will take the entire like script of the video and putting it into the caption of your post. So like Facebook, I'll be like, here's the words I say in this video for folks who need captioning.
That's great. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's really helpful. And so we do have some comments from folks hopping on. Thank you so much for joining us today. And so I think this is a question that we might have a hard time. So we have a lot of different digital formats that we manage. And I know that you're managing or involved in a lot of different organizations. How do you navigate working between all those different groups and the different digital platforms?
Yeah. I guess I'll start with the digital platforms because I think it's like maybe a little bit easier. With digital platforms, the thing that's been helpful and getting more traction, I think, across the board is realizing that the audiences on all the platforms are really different. Like you said, like with Facebook, people are there to like look at pictures of their kids and grandkids. And so it is like, it's becoming like an older audience. I think everyone has a Facebook account, but like a lot of folks just like don't use those. Whereas, clearly Instagram is like around a visual. So thinking about like what visual you're going to put and like less necessarily in the caption. Whereas TikTok is like, or Twitter is more about like the caption, and you have to keep it within 220 characters. So I think keeping the same message across the board, but having to make sure you tweak the angle and like the hook on each of those. On the working with different groups thing, I've actually really enjoyed working between the Gulf and the Ohio River Valley because it is, so I like working on similar like petrochemical fights, but it's been really enlightening to see the different tactics that are being used in different spots. And particularly like because I've been working on the Shell plant and like petrochemical build out here for a long time, I've like really gotten accustomed to the type of work and tactics and tone we use here. And so working with folks from Rise has been just like a great shift in being like, they message things a lot differently. They are going through like different regulatory asks and targeting different agencies. And so it's like things I'm like, oh, could we bring that back here and use that tactic here, and vice versa.
Nice. Yeah. That's really cool. And we have other questions that are popping in. A question from Lois is, can we use portions of known musical artists' songs without getting into trouble with copyright? I think that aren't there like there's like a set of music that you can use, or is that not right?
Yeah, with TikTok, there is, I mean, it's pretty extensive in what you can do. And there's also, so with TikTok, people can create their own sounds as well. So like people will record like their own music or like a funny like skit, and then you can use that in the background of your videos. But yeah, I see Annie's comment now with business/professional accounts. There is some limitations. If you want to do it on the business or professional account, you have to do like a music usage confirmation thing. But if you're just making like your own personal videos, you should be fine. And TikTok has so many, you just search for songs, and you can use usually up to like a minute of it. They might not stretch the full 3-minute video.
Nice. And yeah, thanks for that, because I know I don't know anything about making a TikTok video, but it's definitely something we've been trying to get into doing a lot more around here. So I wanted to ask you, kind of shift gears from digital organizing to, attention for this for the plastics industry. And I know that you're working on the Break Free from Plastics campaign. So how do folks spread the narrative about the Break Free from Plastics campaign?
Yeah, so Break Free from Plastics is like an international coordinating space. If folks aren't familiar, they do have like a U.S. branch, and then Europe, and I think Asia, and possibly also Africa. But so it is an international campaign, and what's really great about Break Free from Plastics is they are looking at plastic as a like fossil fuel based product all the way through like the waste problem of it. So and I think that's what's so important in plastics work, because I think for so long people came to plastics as like straw and turtles' noses, like plastic in the ocean, that's really bad, and like definitely is one, but like two, there's so much harm that plastic creates before it even ends up in the ocean, like before it even ends up like as a Coke bottle on a shelf. Like it's created massive amounts of harm, with 99% of plastics coming from fossil fuels. So with Breakthrough from Plastics, under like the larger umbrella, they have folks working on both like the upstream, the fracking, cracking side stuff down, all the way through like the waste side of things. So right now, obviously, there's the Actions Against Extraction. They have the petition to Biden. They also just put out yesterday a brand audit, looking at which companies are using the most plastic. And I think they break it down both in the U.S. and like internationally, which is also on their website.
Nice, yeah. And we have a question about the barging. How far down the river system will the hot barge traffic go? So it's not going to the Gulf; it's going to Ohio, and I think that Mary already answered that question. Yeah, it's going to Ohio into injection wells. So not only are there these cracker plants that are proposed right along the Ohio River in Ohio, but also there's some injection wells that are already there. And so those injection wells are actually accepting the barged waste that is barging down the river. So they're taking waste from that we generate in Pennsylvania, and actually Ohio has been doing this for years, accepting our waste. So one last question before we hop off, because we're almost out of time. But how do you feel about the disproportionate amount of attention that plastic waste gets, as opposed to plastic production? I think we talked about that a little bit, but do you want to go any deeper?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot. I think a lot of folks enter like the plastic crisis issue like through a lens of waste, and then it kind of becomes like an issue of like, oh, I'm just going to recycle more, like I'm not going to take the plastic bag at the grocery store. And it's been a really successful like propaganda greenwashing tactic of the fossil fuel industry to push plastic onto us. Be like, look at how great plastic is. Like there's all those ads like being like, you don't have to wash dishes, you can just use plastic ones. And like basically inject plastic into all these unnecessary parts of our lives, and then turn around and be like, the plastics crisis is your fault because you're not disposing of it correctly. And when we like zoom out and look at the fact that what is it, I think 9% of plastics are recycled, and even then recycling is still not like a solution. Like it's being sent to countries in the global south where recycling is still like really toxic for them. A lot of these like little plastic products are like not even a point where they can be recycled. They're just like flimsy nothing. So they just automatically become garbage. So we can't talk about the plastics crisis as a problem of waste because we're forgetting about like all the other things that come before it. Like people say, like, if the bathtub's overflowing, you don't fix the problem by like scooping water out of it. Like you fix the problem by turning the tap off, and turning the tap off with plastics is looking at the fracking and cracking side of it and really coming down to like the fracking and extraction. Because right now the fracking industry is like financially not in its best state. And so they're really looking at plastics and petrochemicals to be like their new lifeblood, their new savior. Plastics, carbon capture, and like hydrogen are like the things that they're like going to allow them to keep fracking essentially. And so they're like, we're going to make plastics. You're just going to have to recycle more and more of it instead of being like, well, we shouldn't make the plastics in the first place.
Right. Well, and I know to a lot of folks, the fossil fuel industry says, oh, well, we need this gas. We need it to heat our homes. Yet that's not at all why they're fracking. They're, mm-hmm. They're not fracking to make sure we have heated homes. They're fracking, to make sure that they can sell their product. And this is another product that they want to sell because they know that they're not making as much money on heating our homes. So they're going to find another way to sell their product. And I think it's kind of like, it's really ruthless, when you think about, they're just trying to sell a product, and it doesn't have anything to do with whether it's good for us or whether it's good for our planet, and I think that's important to note. And Annie had put in the chat, there's a really good NPR podcast, Keep America Beautiful, that talks about plastic industry giants. So I stuck that in the chat, and and we want to remind everybody to make sure that you could find the video, all the links and everything in the video description in the chat on YouTube, because this is going to be posted live on YouTube. And so please go back and look at the links for the disaster relief, look at the links for the actions that we posted today, and please also look at the link for our survey, because we want to find out if there's other content that we should be sharing with y'all. And we also want to thank Anaïs for coming today, because it's really important. It's an important part of our culture to engage in this digital format, and it's great that we have a format that can speak to so many people, and just the way that you do it so successfully is really awesome. So thank you again for all your hard work and making sure that people know about the stuff that we're dealing with, and thanks for making a TikTok. I know you made a TikTok for the waste issue, and it's really important. We had a letter to Biden to go along with that waste issue. So, and there might be one. There's another comment that Shark Tank just had an edible spoon. That's interesting. And so, yeah, it looks like there are some folks that are thinking about other ways to make utensils, out of other materials other than plastic. So sounds like a great positive way forward. And we are getting some thank yous. Thank you, Anaïs, for being here today. The folks that are online checking us out are thanking you as well. And good luck on your actions today. And for everyone else, please go into the chat and click on the links and take action as well. Thanks so much for joining us. Bye.
Thanks, y'all.